Hey everybody, Jeremy here. Today I'm going to be checking out one of the new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse figures. Now this one is Batman based on Batman the animated series, and I'm pretty excited about it. Was always into the unique look that Batman the animated series provided, and these new McFarlane Toys are causing a bit of a buzz in the toy community. They were announced at the beginning of January of this year, and then usually you have to wait for things to come out, but these started hitting shelves really soon after that announcement. I've been seeing all kinds of review videos about the different figures in this line coming out, and I was happy and fortunate enough to be able to find this in Walmart. Costs about 20 bucks, and I recommend that you keep your eye out for these. Amazon, they're sold out. Mostly other places, they're either still up for pre-order or they're also sold out. But I've been having good luck with Walmart, and Walmart.com also has a decent number of figures from this line that are currently available and ready to ship. So the big point with these is that they have 22 points of articulation. As we know, McFarlane Toys is kind of known for having more of a statue-esque kind of a feel to their action figures, and they've been trying to improve on that. But this is going to be my first time checking out one of these for myself, so let's open it up and see what we get. So right off the bat, one of the things that I do want to point out is that this particular Batman isn't exactly like the one that we saw in Batman the animated series. In fact, this sculpt resembles more closely to the new Batman Adventures, and the paint is more like Batman the animated series. So if that's something that bothers you, then this may be one that you might want to pass on because it's not completely accurate in that sense. But if you think that this is close enough to what you see in Batman the animated series, then keep watching because you may want this figure despite that oversight. Now, let's talk about the paint of this guy. Honestly, I am not a fan. I've seen some other reviews talk about the paint in a way that's like, okay, well, it's fine. But to me, honestly, I don't think so. Now, one of the first things that I noticed about this figure that kind of put me off was this bat symbol here. Now, it may not completely show up on the camera, and you definitely wouldn't be able to tell at a distance. But when you look at it close up, it looks a little bit off. It looks a little lumpy, if you will. The paint is really what I'm talking about here, and especially like around those edges. It's just not completely clean. Is it terrible? No, but we've seen what you can get from a $20, $25 figure as far as that good attention to detail and that really good craftsmanship goes. And this one just doesn't have it. And also when I look on Batman's face, you turn it just a little bit, and you can just kind of see like right along the edges here, they really aren't clean. Now, again, I'm not expecting perfection, but I do expect more from McFarlane Toys, and I'll tell you and I'll show you why in a minute. And it just gives this appearance of being, you know, cheap. The paint on almost all areas of this figure, whether we're talking about the gauntlets here or if we're talking about what's on the belt, there's just these areas where the paint looks like it didn't dry flat, or it just looks a little bit lumpy. It just does not look as pristine as I would expect from this new DC Multiverse line from McFarlane Toys, because I know McFarlane Toys is capable of doing much better than what they're showing us with this particular figure here. So, you know, I'm not going to say that this is like the most horrible paint job that I have ever seen or anything like that, you know, but I definitely do think that it leaves much to be desired, especially when you compare it to other similar priced action figures on the market. So as I move this guy around, it kind of brings me to my next point here. He's not the easiest figure in the world to stand up. Now, it's possible, but I'm thinking that because of the top heavy nature of him, you can see he's got these really thin legs here. By nature, he kind of just wants to fall. Now, granted, you do get this stand here, and this stand does help with Batman standing up, definitely. But if you don't want to use the stand and you just kind of want to have him as is, I found it a bit of a struggle to get him to stand. And I just don't think that it's a good sign if you have to fiddle with a figure for 10, 15 minutes just to get him in a regular standing up pose. You know, sometimes he wants to go forward, sometimes he wants to go back. The best way to kind of deal with it, I've seen, is to kind of try to distribute the weight by pushing one leg forward and keeping one back. And, you know, I'm not going to try to get him to stand up perfectly like right here in this video as if everything is fine, because it's not. He doesn't stand up very well by himself, and you are going to have to really work with it in order to get him to do that. Now, like I said, the stand that it comes with does help, but I really think that just from a design perspective, that all action figures should be able to stand on their own reliably without the help of any kind of a base. And when they can't do that, that just points to a flaw in the overall design of the figure. So that makes this figure lose a point for me, because he should be easier to stand. Now let's go over some of the articulation a bit. That's one thing that McFarlane Toys has been trying to get better at. They've been trying to incorporate more useful articulation into their figures. And with this Batman figure, he does have some useful articulation. However, I will point out that a lot of the range of motion is kind of lost on the fact that this cape and cowl combination kind of gets in the way of some of the articulation as well. So while it's there, it may be hindered as well. But let's just see what you got here. Now, these legs can go out pretty far, about that far, you know, so that's pretty good. You don't get the same super wide range of motion when you try to kick forward. You can kick forward kind of like this much. It's not terrible, but you know, it's not as far as when you go from side to side. Also, he has double jointed knees as well. So, you know, if you do have like an action figure stand that's pretty decent quality, it's got some weight to it, you know, you can get him in a Batman coming down with this grappling hook kind of pose if you wanted to get him in that kind of pose. And it works well with the double jointed knees. So you can do that. But of course, if you're just wanting to use what you get out of the package, that might be a problem. With the arms here, of course, you know the range of motion with arms, up, down, left, right. You get a little bit more range going out to the side right here. You can kind of see that joint in action right there. As for the abs, they can go left and right, but you can't really crunch it forward. The hands, I will say, the hands are, they can come off pretty easily. That's a good thing, because you have these interchangeable hands that you can use. And I'm glad that the actual peg does not come off with the hands. When you just want to pop the hand off, just the hand comes off, and then the peg stays there underneath, and it makes it really, really easy to change those hands. So McFarlane Toys did a good job on that. Some figures that cost twice as much as this still kind of struggle with that whole aspect of it. So it has that going on for it. And then the head is kind of weird. The head is really kind of weird on Batman, and let me show you why. So if you want to turn his head left and right, you can, but it's weird because his head it turns at an angle. It doesn't just go left or right. It kind of just tilts as you turn it. And I think that really hurts when it comes to trying to get a decent dynamic pose with Batman looking to his left or to his right, because if you turn it too far, it just gets kind of weird. So that is definitely one thing to point out. It may be better just trying to keep him dead center. That's where it's going to look the best. So that's just one piece of articulation that I definitely do think that they could have improved upon. You can't really lift his head up all that much, and you really can't look down all that much either. So it's just kind of there for the sake of being there, although the usefulness is limited, to say the least. But what you are getting here is some articulation that, you know, it's better than some of the more statuesque things that McFarlane Toys has come out in the past with. But, you know, my biggest gripe about this figure in particular is that I don't think that it's painted very well. It does come off as being quite cheap to me. And the reason why that's such a disappointment is because I know what McFarlane Toys is capable of. For example, let's look at this guy right here. This is one of the color tops that McFarlane Toys came out with years ago. And the color tops were these line of action figures that were really more like statues. This came from Titanfall 2, but they also had figures for Assassin's Creed, and it started off with The Walking Dead. And just look at the detail on this guy. When you look at the amount of detail this figure has and all of the, really, in my opinion, kind of complicated paint that goes along with him, very nuanced. It's really, really good. I had to dig this guy out of a box in order to show him to you. And they did such a good job with these color tops in the way that the paint goes. And the sculpts are also incredible. And I was hoping that what went into this would be the same kind of quality that will go into something like this for Batman. And unfortunately, that is not what we're getting. So it almost seems like there was a trade-off. Yeah, sure, you got more articulation. Are you happy now? We had to invest in that. But now we lost what, in my opinion, is the most important part of an action figure. And that's the way that it looks and the sculpt and the paint. I think that that's what really helps them to stand out, because chances are you're going to get them into one pose and you're going to leave them there anyway. But in my opinion, if I had my choice, I would much rather have a not really articulatable version of the of this Batman that's more akin to this than what we got right here. So real quick, let's go over the accessories here. So one accessory that you're going to get is this grappling gun here, and here's another accessory that's attached to it. This is just another hand that you get with Batman. They're both the same. They're just these open hands that will allow you to put the grappling gun in his hand along with the batarang here. So this is like the nice fat batarang that you would see from Batman the Animated Series. So yeah, I do like this batarang. You don't really get a lot of batarangs like this, so that's pretty cool. But those are the only accessories that you get, along with this little collectible card and the base. So all in all, I'm personally disappointed in this figure because I know that McFarlane Toys can do better than this. I do not find the paint on this guy to be acceptable when we already know what we can get for around that price. I showed you the McFarlane Toys Titanfall figure. That's just amazing. But then you look at the competition, you look at companies like NECA and what they can put out for $24 and how much better that is than this particular Batman. When you look at the Lightning collection from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers right now, what we're getting from that, that's really good too. You know, and then even the Bandai Power Rangers stuff that came before that, those were very well done. DC collectible stuff, a lot of that stuff is really well done as well. And then when you get something like this, in my opinion, it just looks inferior to what we've already gotten. So I hope that McFarlane Toys can do better than what we're seeing here. I do have the Batman Who Laughs coming in very, very soon. So I'm gonna hope that that figure is better than this one in every conceivable way. But for right now, I'm now approaching this line with very, very subdued expectations compared to when I first heard about this announcement. So that's all, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jeremy. I'll talk to you later.